EA's Road Rash on Game Boy Color features a 2-player link cable verse mode. Out of the hundreds of games released on the Game Boy Color, Road Rash might be the only game to prominently highlight its multiplayer mode with an exclusive, bold, custom Game Link icon at the front of the box. If you know of any other games to rock such a strong design on the front of the box art mentioning the link cable mode, let me know in the comments. So for a game pushing the Game Link option so hard, it's a shame that the 2-player gameplay is painfully boring and not really fun. In fact, the single-player mode is more entertaining than the multiplayer mode. Accessible from the main menu, players compete in a simple race to the finish. First, player 1 selects the confusingly named level 1 through 5, which determines the length of the race. The higher the number, the longer the distance to finish. Then each player can select a bike even though they play and control the same, they just sport a different color. Then one of 5 tracks can be selected. So why is the single player mode more fun than the multiplayer? Because the multiplayer solely pits player 1 against player 2. That's it, there are no competitive AI racers, there are no power-ups, there are no range weapons, there aren't even any speed boosts. Other than bursting off the starting line, there's a really good chance you won't even see your opponent for the long duration of the race. The gimmick with Road Rash comes from melee attacking your opponent to knock them off their bike. And it takes numerous hits and the hitbox is impossibly small. But it doesn't really matter because when you race against one other opponent on a track that lasts way too long even on the shortest setting, melee combat means nothing. Smacking your opponent with one of the 4 selectable items, from fists to batons, has no effect on the gameplay. If Mario Kart-like ranged items were involved, or even boost pads, then gameplay would have been way more meaningful. Thankfully, the game ends and reverts back to the main menu when the first player finishes. There's no need to wait for the losing player to finish. As boring as the multiplayer mode is, there's no denying that Road Rash is impressive on a technical level. Honestly, this has to be one of the best looking racing games on Game Boy Color. From the bright colors, speedy frame rate, and dips in the road that causes the racer to hop in the air, this is a great looking GBC racer. And when you crash, the player can freely walk around the road, which is super cool for some reason. It also controls well. Most racing games feel too slippery, making it easy to crash into the signs at the side of the road. But not Road Rash. For the most part, you can continue to hold the accelerator without fear of sliding off track. This was probably an intentional design choice since holding down on the D-pad acts as the brake, since the accelerator and melee attack are assigned to the face buttons. Unfortunately, racing against a linked opponent doesn't reward either player with anything, win or lose, making this multiplayer mode an even harder pill to swallow since there's no incentive. Strangely, the finish screen exclaims that both players have been, quote, qualified, win or lose, which doesn't make any sense. Road Rash on Game Boy Color is essentially more of the same in comparison to the original Game Boy release, but that version did not have a 2-player mode. It sure does look pretty, especially when played on actual GBC hardware, but the Link gameplay is disappointingly boring, especially since the box art generates so much hype. But what do you think? Have you ever played a Road Rash game? Did you know about this GBC Link option? And which one-handed melee weapon do you like to swing at your opponent, throwing off your balance trying to steer with one hand when driving at high speeds on a dangerous motorcycle? Let me know in the comments. And for all sorts of link cable content you never had the chance to experience for yourself, check out my dedicated playlists in the description. Until next time, thank you for watching and game on.